Good evening. It's emerged today that Bob Higgins, the former Southampton football coach at the centre of child abuse allegations, came to the attention of football's governing body more than 25 years ago. In 1989, the Football League sent a letter to all club managers warning against involvement with the Bob Higgins Soccer Academy. The letter didn't spell out specific reasons. 3 years later, he was acquitted of 6 charges of indecently assaulting teenage boys. But in 1997, when Mr Higgins was running his own football academy, Hampshire Police sent a letter to all schools warning he was a risk to children. It said, "We would strongly urge you to contact us if approached by him in either recruiting young players or in using your facilities." Mr Higgins has always denied any wrongdoing, but allegations of child abuse have followed him for years, as Richard Slee now reports.
Fill it up, fill it up.
This is Bob Higgins training Bashley youth players in 1991, one of many roles he had as a coach and an agent after he left Southampton. By this time, there were already allegations that Bob Higgins was acting inappropriately with young players. Dave Merrington, who was Southampton's youth manager in the late 1980s, remembers one young lad being highly distressed. He told the club manager about his concerns.
The information that we received back was just that the fact that they were referring it to the police, and that was it.
But then you were asked to speak to Bob Higgins yourself.
I was. Bob wasn't happy about the situation. The manager asked me to have a word with him, and which I did, and he got very annoyed and said that he would sue anybody who said anything against him. Jumped up and stormed out.
2 weeks later, Bob Higgins left the club. We visited Bob Higgins' home in Southampton to offer him the chance to respond to the many allegations that are being made against him. But we were told by his wife that he wasn't available.
Clearly, there are a lot of questions being asked about how Southampton Football Club dealt with these historic child abuse issues. And in a statement, the club says, "We are now working with Hampshire Police to investigate these allegations, and we offer our full support for as long as it takes and with our full focus." Richard Slee, ITV News, Southampton.
Well, Bob Higgins held a key role with Southampton Football Club in the late 1980s and early 90s, as Chris Moore now explains.
Southampton's ability to discover talented footballers has long been the envy of many larger clubs. Gareth Bale and Theo Walcott, to mention 2 recent products. 30 years earlier, at their old home, the Dell, there'd been a succession of star names setting out on their careers. And Bob Higgins had played a pivotal role in youth development at the club. By the early 1990s, he'd left Saints, established his own academy and was also an agent. In 1992, Mr Higgins told Fred Dinage how his relationship with Saints had broken down.
Every player who came to the academy had the opportunity to go to Southampton Football Club, as he did to any other Football League club, and still has. I think it's on their side that they've moved the goalpost.
He was the agent to the Wallace brothers, Rodney and Ray, who signed for Leeds in 1991, after elder brother Danny had departed for Manchester United for £1.2 million in 1989.
Southampton people should be leaping up for joy. All right, they've lost Rodney, Raymond and Danny, who are class players, but at the same time they've got £3 million in the bank that they should be able to use to buy better players.
3 decades on, the relationships between agents, coaches, clubs and their young players is again under scrutiny. Chris Morn, ITV News.
In other news tonight, Southern Rail passengers have been warned to expect severe and significant disruption as another 3-day walkout starts tonight. Here's our political correspondent, Phil Hornby.
He did well to get here on time. Trains in the area were delayed all morning. Here to launch The Key, a new smart card season ticket for southeastern passengers. But reminders of the problems in the next door franchise were all around.
Why are you spending time doing this when you should be spending every waking hour looking for the key to unlock this catastrophic strike on Southern Rail?
I recognise people are naturally going to be concerned at the impending strike action, I'm keen to see what happens in the High Court on Wednesday, where I know GTR are going to court to seek an injunction, so we will see what emerges from that.
What are you doing to resolve this?
Well, personally, I'm seeing GTR every week going through case study after case study after case study of why the service simply isn't good enough.
But nothing improves, it just gets worse.
I recognise people's frustrations, but the long-term answer to this problem is to make sure that we have a network that can cope with the increasing volume of passengers who are travelling on it.
This is a council of despair for passengers. They've heard this from government ministers for months and months and months, and things just get worse.
Well, I think that we are putting effort in, but we need all parts of the railway, including the unions, to play a role in making a success of this railway. And the unions are simply not putting passengers' interests first.
A busy day for the minister. After answering my questions, he had to rush back to the Commons to answer MPs' questions.
Will the minister roll up his sleeves and get stuck in to resolve the crisis?
Will the minister get to his feet and just say he will do whatever it takes to improve this service?
The minister blamed the unions for strikes which he said were unnecessary and politically motivated. For passengers, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Westminster.
An elderly man has been rescued from a house fire in Bursledon. It broke out at the property on the High Street and spread quickly to the roof. Emergency crews were alerted by a passer-by. People in Dorset have backed plans to merge the 9 main councils into 2. Around 70% of people support turning Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch into one authority, with another council to cover the rest of the county. A decision is expected in January. A restaurant owner has been fined £9,500 after cockroaches and rat droppings were found at an Indian takeaway in Portsmouth. Inspectors went to Everest Spice on Kingston Road after a customer complained he'd found a cockroach in his food. And finally tonight, it was an incredible journey. One woman has just travelled thousands of miles with a flock of swans from Russia to the south coast in a motorised paraglider. She's broken a world record and provided much needed scientific research. Abigail Bracken has her story.
Over 4,000 miles in almost 2 months after she first took off from northern Russia in her motorised paraglider, Sasha Dench makes the final approach to land here in Kent, following the flight path taken by migratory swans every year, flying across the busiest shipping lane in the world and into the record books.
I think at the very beginning, I'm not sure how many of us really thought we'd get this far, because it's such a long journey the birds do. And then, yeah, to have gotten this far and to now get across the channel, this has logistically been the hardest thing.
She's just landed here at the Gliding Club at Waldershire Park and has become the first woman to make it across the English Channel in a paramotor, and brings worldwide attention to the plight of the Bewick swan. The Bewick swans are the smallest and rarest members of the swan family. In just 15 years, their numbers have dropped by a third.
The whole point was to add to what we know from data. We've had data loggers on birds and things, but what we really needed to see was exactly what that meant in reality for the birds, to see the places they're going.
Sasha Dench acted as a human swan in her 4,500-mile journey.
How'd I cope with the cold? Look at me. I'm wearing 10 layers, I think, underneath this suit.
Sasha hopes she's made enough of an impact along her route that we may now see more Bewicks arriving here in years to come. Abigail Bracken, ITV News, Dover.
Just incredible pictures. Now, what does the weather have in store here? With all the details tonight, here's Simon Parkin.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening, and it's a very chilly night tonight, with the added bonus of some mist and murk too. Some fog is the problem, some very dense patches developing through the night, but at least tomorrow will be a dry day, although for many of us it will stay mostly grey. Just at the minute we've got high pressure out to the east, and we've got low pressure and various weather fronts out to the west, and we're stuck in the middle with, well, not much happening, which is good, but fairly moist air, and that's why we've got the mist and the fog overnight tonight. So a Met Office weather warning that runs until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it does mean that if you are driving around, do take extra care, because, well, you could just suddenly find yourself in a dense fog patch. Temperatures, though, by first thing tomorrow morning above freezing in most places, milder towards the coast. But as I say, it will be a grey start to what's going to turn out to be a fairly grey day. Any mist and murk will slowly lift, although for some of us it will linger. And again, it's a north-south split temperature-wise tomorrow. To the north of the region where we've got the thickest cloud, that's where we'll see temperatures a disappointing 8 or 9, just getting into double figures down towards the coast. But as the ground is still fairly cold, it's not going to feel very warm anywhere.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
And that is all from us for tonight, but we are back in Good Morning Britain from 6 o'clock tomorrow night. But from me and from all of us here on the Late Team, thanks for staying with us. See you again tomorrow. Until then, good night.